Hi folks, we're here today with a motorcycle triple clamp that we made on the microARC 4th axis in the Tormach 1100 MX. It was a lot of fun making this part. I learned a lot. This video is going to walk through some of the tips and tricks. Hopefully you learned something too. Thanks for tuning in and welcome to another Wednesday Widget. So this triple clamp is designed to use different inserts that change the offset of your triple clamp. And this is a very common application in flat track motorcycle racing. Now flat track is not a very big industry. It's a good example of a niche. If you can find an application in a niche like that, then there's a business opportunity for you.
These triple clamps are a relatively large project for this microARC 4th axis, so we needed to raise it up off the table a few inches to be able to have room to spin that part around. We decided to do this with a couple of Saunders Machine Works pallets and the Saunders Machine Works microARC subplate. So we also needed to choose a good workholding solution for this project. So we tossed around a few different ideas, including the possibility of making an adapter for one of our smaller 5th axis vices, or even a completely custom solution. We decided to use the ER40 faceplate that comes with this microARC 4th axis. In order to make that work, we had to do an operation before the part went in the 4th axis, which exposed a boss on the material in order for the ER40 collet to clamp onto. I was pretty skeptical at first, but you'll see throughout the rest of this video, it actually worked very well. In order to add the geometry that we needed to grab onto this stock, I created an entirely new component. So this component seemingly adds the geometry that we need, and then within manufacture for our setup, I simply select both bodies for the model. Fusion then takes it into consideration when developing your stock size, and you're able to program the part just as if it was all one part. When it comes to machining this part before it goes into the 4th axis, there's quite a bit of material to remove. Anytime we're removing a lot of material, my first thought is adaptive. And I left it on here just to give a visual of why adaptive is not a good option in this case. So adaptive is going to clear from the outside in, and then ultimately leave a tall, thin piece of material that is going to chatter, make all kinds of noises, and potentially damage tools. So you can see here in the simulation, as it comes around, this very thin piece of aluminum is not going to go well for you. So there are a couple of different ways that we can do this in order to avoid that. The way that I chose was to use a 2D contour with roughing passes. Within 2D contour, I selected this radius as my geometry and then selected stock contours. When I do that, I can go to the passes tab, select roughing passes, give it a step over, and then a large number of step overs. I could do 100, I could do 500. And then Fusion is going to trim off the toolpath around our stock contours and create a nice toolpath that is going to clear that area from the outside in. Once we have the majority of the material safely cleared out with these 2D contour operations, we come back with an adaptive to clear the area around the boss itself. We'll use 2D contour to finish the walls and the floor around the walls of the boss, a facing operation to finish the top, and a chamfer just to knock the edge off. After that, we're ready to get this part set up in the 4th axis. We're going to set our work offset in the center of the rotation. We have the Z set in the middle of the part, the Y set along the center line of the axis of rotation, and then while I was clamping this part down in the ER40 faceplate, I was holding it against the nut. When it comes to setting the work offset, I'm going to use the Heimer to touch that collet nut face and set that as our X0. When it comes to the rotation, we just sweep the top of the part with an indicator to get it flat, and then once it's flat, we can set that as our A0. So now we're ready to dive into the 4th axis operation of this part. Well, almost. we're going to have some serious clearance problems with our tool changer. So within the Tormach control, there's not a good way to set a safe tool change location. And also, after the tool change, we're going to need that tool to retract back up in Z. So on this 1100 MX, for a tool change, the Z-axis comes down a little bit, conducts the tool change, and then on a normal Tormach post processor, it moves to its XY location. When we have this triple clamp turned vertical in the fourth axis, if we do that, there's going to be a serious collision. We could go through and manually edit every single operation to make sure it's going to be safe, but that's not a very sustainable solution. So let's go ahead and modify the post processor. If you do not have Visual Studio Code yet, you should definitely check it out. Card here to a video where John explains this software and how useful of a tool it can be when it comes to editing post processors. So once we have the post processor open, again, the first thing we're going to want to do is save a copy of it, so that way we always have the original to revert back to. We want the machine to move to the safe tool change position and retract in Z after the tool change, after every tool change. So we can start by opening up the CNC selector, and Visual Studio Code will create a sample program. Highlight our tool change line, and it will pull up in the post processor where that is happening. So here it is. This section of the post processor is what is creating the actual tool change line of code. Let's go ahead and write a comment that is going to let us know what's going on here. Safe tool change, and then hit Control S. It will save our post processor and then rewrite the code with our updated post processor. That line then added the comment safe tool change to the sample program. And when it comes to editing post processors, you really don't have to be a genius in order to make effective changes. So we know that we want a G30 after our tool change line, and that's going to cause Z to retract. So if we come down here at the end of our program, there is a G30. We highlight that and it pulls up the line that creates that G30. We can then simply highlight it, Control C to copy. We can go back up to our tool change line, and after the tool change line, Control V to paste, Control S, and now after our tool change line, we have a G30, just like at the end of the program. So before the machine does a tool change, we're really not too concerned with the Y position of the machine. It's the X that we need to get out of the way. The line of code G0, G53, X0 will move the machine to a safe position. The G0 is going to tell it to rapid there. The G53 is going to set the work offset as the home position of the machine. And then X0 is simply going to tell it to move to the position X0. So for this, we can start by copying the same line of code that we used for our G30. Underneath our comment, we can paste it and then change the 30 to a 0, Control S to confirm, and now we have a G0. In order to add more words to that same line, we can move over, comma, copy and paste that, and change the 0 to 53, Control S, and now we have G0, G53. Then when it comes to adding our X position, we can look here at another X position and see how it's done. So in X output, format, and then parentheses. We'll copy that, come back to the line that we're inserting into the program, add another comma, Control V to paste, and then change what's in the parentheses to X decimal. Control S to save, and that is going to give us a G0 G53X0. This is going to send the fourth axis all the way out of the way, conduct the tool change, and then our G30 is going to take our Z back up so that we can safely move to our initial position and begin that next operation. Now that our post processor is dialed in, we're ready to get into our fourth axis operation for these triple clamps. So we're going to start out with an adaptive to clear the area. We ran this pretty conservative with multiple step downs, mainly because this setup was not super rigid. Being that we're only holding the part in the middle with that ER40 collet, I wanted to be a little bit easier on it, clear out around the outside edges where it is just hanging out in space. Honestly, it sounded better than I was expecting, and I probably could have pushed it a little bit harder. With this part, we are using all of the Y travel on this machine. Typically, within an adaptive, I like to change the stay down level under the linking tab to either 90% or most. But when we did this, the linking moves around the outside edges of the part were actually over traveling in the Y direction. We had to change it to 10% just to get it to stay within the machine's travel. Another thing that I want to note, opening up this center pocket is really going to reduce the rigidity of the setup, so we're going to save that to the very end and finish as much as we can on the rest of the part first. Throughout this setup, we're going to be using tool orientation. Under this geometry tab, we can select tool orientation, and that gives us an option to select a Z-axis and an X-axis. You're simply going to want to select edges and straight lines on your model to align your work coordinate system with the orientation that you're shooting for. So we're using this tool orientation throughout this entire operation, and the post processor takes care of the rest. So after our initial adaptive strategy, we flip the part over and use a couple more adaptive strategies to finish roughing the part. We then come back with a 1/2 inch finishing end mill. We use a facing operation to finish the top, and then 2D contour to finish other characteristics on the part. There were a few times where we had to create a sketch and select that as our geometry. Here, for example, we created a sketch with a line going straight across this slot. This slot is going to be finished later by a slitting saw, but we wanted our 1/2 inch end mill to conduct a continuous tool path around the outside of this part. So we created a sketch, selected that as one of our contour selections, and got a nice continuous tool path. We then come back with a 1/16 inch end mill to finish some of the smaller geometry on this part. And then we get to the spot drill. Folks, we use this spot drill on all 4 sides of the part that we can reach in this fourth axis. This is where a fourth axis can really cut down on your setup times. 4 operations all in one, we're getting it done here in the Tormach. After the spot drill, we come back with a high-speed steel drill bit to drill a few through holes. And then we use a 1/4 inch Lakeshore Carbide 3-flute end mill to open up some of the counterbores. We use that same end mill to clear out and finish a pocket. And then we rigid tap a few holes. After that, we have quite a few chamfering operations as we get all the way around this part with our chamfer tool. When it comes to these holes with counterbores on the side of the part, I really didn't see a good way to chamfer that top edge with a traditional chamfer tool. So we went ahead and used a 1/8 inch ball nose end mill and the new blend strategy. So within the blend strategy, we're able to select the surface of the radius for the drive surface, and then the outside edges of each radius for the drive curves. We then set our step over at 2/1000ths, and after playing with the heights tab a little bit, we were able to get a tool path that we're really happy with. And next up, we have a 4-inch high-speed steel circular saw that has 34 teeth. So we're going to program this with a 2D contour. We run it at 600 SFM, 1 thou feed per tooth. I used roughing passes with a step over of 60 thousandths and gave it a negative 20 thousandths radial stock to leave just to make sure it passes all the way through. For our contour selection, we selected this back edge of the slot. Then we were able to select stock contours and choose the area that we're trying to clear with the circular saw. For our roughing passes, we can then give it a large number of step overs, and Fusion will trim the toolpath to determine exactly what you need to clear that area. I was really impressed with how well this sounded, and if anything, I probably could have done a little larger radial step over, but this worked out and sounded good doing it. After the circular saw, we were ready to clear out the center pocket. So we had some clearance issues with our roughing tool. The bottom side of the tool holder was not going to clear the top of the ER40 collet nut if we went all the way through with the roughing pass. So we did this in 2 operations where we went half and half to clear it all out. Luckily, our finish tool did have enough room, so we were able to finish that area all in 1 pass. We then come back with a chamfer for those edges, and we're ready to dive into tabbing off this part. Overall, I was very happy with how smoothly this tabbing process went. So I used the 1/2 inch roughing end mill to slot out this part. We gave it a radial stock to leave of 4 thousandths, and then we used multiple depths to give it step downs of just 40 thousandths at a time. For this initial slotting with the 1/2 inch roughing end mill, we only went halfway through the part, then flipped it over and came back halfway from the other side. We then came back with 2 more slotting operations that let us clear the material a little bit further and would let us finish an additional wall with our 1/2 inch finishing end mill. I used the finishing end mill and took a full length finish pass across that surface, and I was really afraid it was going to chatter. Surprisingly, it sounded good, looked good, and worked out great. I then came in with the chamfer tool and chamfered all of the edges that I could. And finally, I used a 1/4 inch end mill to go even further with the tabs that were left. When I came back with this 1/4 inch end mill, I made sure to leave a larger stock to leave. So here we leave a radial stock of 15 thousandths so that way it stays off the wall of the part, and gravity is really helping us here because as the part begins to bow downwards, the part is pulling away from the end mill and we don't have to worry about any nasty rubbing or chattering. After the 1/4 inch end mill cleared off the final tab on both sides, this part sat there and bounced beautifully. It worked great and I couldn't be happier. So after the part comes off the 4th axis, we're able to set it up on the table with a couple of Saunders Machine Works mod vices and finish the rest. So we finished this flat surface with a 2D contour, we spot drill, chamfer, tap, and the part is finished.
Folks, this was a great application of when to use a slitting saw. We are really liking the new blend toolpath, and that microARC 4th axis really impressed us. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys learned something. Take care out there and stay safe, folks.